You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Grant, the Hoosiers have a new head coach, and it kind of came from out of nowhere.
Yeah, it did. We've hammered all these names over the last, 6 weeks, and Darian DeVries, his name was one that, it kind of popped up, but you and I never really talked about it, did we?
Nope, never.
That's why it was a little bit of a shock. But when you think about it, you take a step back and you kind of analyze it. It's not really a shock. Darian DeVries is one of the best, kind of younger head coaches. He's 49 years old. He'll be 50 before the season starts, but he's one of the best younger head coaches in the country. I mean, look what he did at Drake. Took him to the NCAA tournament multiple times. I think he took him there 3 times, 4 times at Drake.
3 times in 6 years.
Yeah, 3 times in 6 years. What I'm really excited about with him is that he's going to bring his son.
That's right.
Tucker DeVries. I'm really excited about that because if you're an Indiana fan and you liked Anthony Leal, you'll love Tucker DeVries. He is a more skilled Anthony Leal. He was a 2-time Conference Player of the Year in the Missouri Valley when he was at Drake with his dad. He was the 2021 Mr. Basketball in the state of Iowa. He is an NBA prospect, and he'll be an NBA prospect at Indiana. He's 6'7". He's a great wing. He can slash. He can get to the basket, of course. But the biggest thing is like he's a 40% three-point shooter, and he can really stroke the rock. So that's a package deal. I mean, you get the dad, you obviously get the son. The son, I believe, has 2 more years of eligibility. And that's huge because, let's be honest, he's going to play for his dad. He's not going to, he's not going to go to the NBA after 1 year. Now, my rebuttal to this is that Darian DeVries, he was at West Virginia for 1 year this past year, and they did not make the NCAA tournament. They were one of the first 4 out with Indiana. So it starts to make you wonder, did Indiana and Darian DeVries kind of be like, hey, we're going to name you the head coach, and Indiana maybe tell the selection committee, hey, we're going to name our coach, but it's that guy at West Virginia, and they're one of the first 4 out. We don't want to be in, and he doesn't want to continue to coach. We want to name him our coach.
I doubt that happened.
No,
but it sure seems like it.
I don't.
If you look at the resumes, West Virginia was better than North Carolina without question. But anyway, let's talk about the future. First of all, no Chris Beard. I thought that was a home run. Of course, this has a chance to be a home run. He's obviously a very good coach. And what he did at West Virginia, taking the team that program may have been the worst, in the worst situation of any of the major national programs. And in 1 year, took them to 19 wins and on the verge of an NCAA tournament bid. No matter how you look at things, he was a National Coach of the Year candidate this year.
Yeah, he almost tripled West Virginia's win total from the year prior to the next season. They won 8 games the year prior, and they won 19 this year. They were 19-14. I think on paper he's a good coach. I would say obviously, but honestly, I haven't paid attention enough to really get a grasp on his ability to coach the game. Now, I'll have to listen to what he says today. His press conference is coming up at 11:30 in the press room at Assembly Hall. I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say, watching videos of, maybe watching some West Virginia games or Drake games over the years. So we'll see. I'll be honest with you. It's not the guy from Drake I thought Indiana was going to get. If anything,
That's right.
I thought they were going to go with Ben McCollum. I honestly, I almost thought there for a while it was a done deal with Brad Brownell. I'm a little glad that they kind of went the Darian DeVries route. I think Darian DeVries uh, is a better coach than Brad Brownell. I think he's proven that he's a better coach than Brad Brownell, where Brad Brownell had to kind of save himself a few times there at Clemson, and he got these contract extensions, and he got extended last offseason until like 2029. He would owe the university money if he were to leave Clemson. But then again, you would be leaving Clemson for Indiana, where you'll be making more money. So it's all this. I think Scott Dolson and Pamela Whitten, on paper, you really look at it, I think they've gotten it right. I really hope this works out, but time will only tell. It's really tough for us to sit here right now and say this is a home run hire. This is an absolute home run hire with a guy that, let's be honest, we really don't know much about at this point, almost 24 hours since he's been hired as the head coach.
Yeah, no question about that. And IU will owe West Virginia a lot of money, and they'll have to pay off his contract at Drake as well. So that was part of the deal.
Yeah, and Indiana has one of the best athletic funds in the country. I think they had. I think they made. I think in 2023 they made more money than any athletic department in the country. I mean, it's rich across all sports. Indiana has the money to go and get these people. That's why I think fans. I think that's why fans throw out these names like Brad Stevens and
Yes.
Scott Drew and TJ Otzelberg. These guys that if you get them, they're going to be expensive. But here's the thing. They know Indiana can afford these guys. They know they can afford Chris Beard. They know they can afford Scott Drew or Dusty May or whatever. These really good coaches, because Indiana has the money. Think
And
about
if they win, it'll be well worth it.
exactly, and then they'll start to make more money, because then they'll want to extend him and they'll want to keep him. We've seen that just across the parking lot at the football stadium. What did Signetti do? I'm trying to tie this all back, make it make sense. But he started to win, so he started to make more money, and that was a part of his contract. Where if they won 6 games, it was an additional, $100,000 or
Right.
whatever it was. If you won 7 games, it was this. 8 games, 9 games, 10 games. If you went to a playoff, it was this. I don't, and that's a little different, because that's a game by game, and you're only playing like Indiana only played 13 games this past year in football, obviously. Where in basketball, you could, if you're really good, you could be playing over 40. So I don't know what I honestly have not seen the contract, or I wouldn't say I've not seen. I haven't really looked into the details. I know it's a 6-year deal. I think it's $6 million a year, 6-year deal, and it's not bad. And I think if Coach DeVries starts to have success right away and they go to the NCAA tournament in the first year, then his salary will only get bigger.
And having his son will help, clearly, but he's going to have to remake that roster. So it'll be interesting to see what happens from now till then, especially how good his recruiting chops are. Get out your crystal ball, Grant. How do you see this going in the long run?
Well, first of all, I mean, you talk about recruiting. We know he's bringing his son, which is good, because his son is already probably one of, if not the top player in the portal right now. And guys are going to jump in and out of the portal here as time goes on.
And it's been
But
a long time since IU has had an actual go-to scorer that you knew who was getting the ball at the end of the game.
Exactly. And they're going to have this with Tucker DeVries.
Right.
And that's why I'm really excited. Like I said, if you really like Trey Galloway and liked Anthony Leal or Luke Goody as an Indiana fan, then you are going to love Tucker DeVries. I mean, it's amazing. I can't believe it. But you know, you talk about recruiting and you talk about having to flip the roster and everything, and it's not going to take 1 year. Honestly, I don't know if that's necessarily true because of the portal. Because guys can jump in the portal, and if you're a good recruiter, you can assemble a super team if you can. If you recruit it the right way, you can get whoever you want. It's not like, oh, we got to wait on, you know, these we got to recruit out of high school, and if we do get a transfer, then they got to sit out. Well, that was the difference with Crean, where when he came in, he had all these walk-ons and they won 6 games, but people kind of rallied around that team because they knew they weren't very good, and they only won 6 games that year and lost a lot of games they should not have lost. And it's different in this day and age where you can, you know, almost buy players out of the portal. And at Indiana, he's going to have, I think this is probably one of his biggest drivers to come from West Virginia to Indiana, is that the NIL at Indiana compared to West Virginia is night and day. And he's going to have all this money to work with to get these guys out of the portal. His son can probably go to him and say, Dad, I want to make $2 million a year. We can make it happen. I think it's going to be fun to see what they get. And you got to keep in mind that, you know, his players at West Virginia, I wouldn't say the whole roster, but some of them may follow him. And on top of it, Luke Goody, I think, is in the process of getting a medical waiver to come back, and I think that is likely. But I wouldn't be shocked if it doesn't happen. He's trying to get a medical waiver to come back for a 6th season. And I think he's pretty much already said, no matter who the coach is, I'll be here at Indiana. So I think it's going to be a fun April to see who Indiana's going to get out of the portal, because they're going to start to get recruits.
Thank you so much to Grant, and congratulations to IU fans for having a new head coach. And thank you for listening. If you're interested in seeing the Central Indiana Sports Report continue to grow and thrive, please share it with your friends. Thanks as always. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media.
And Greg loves Susie.
Thank you, Grace.